Story number 1, The Lost Line. If you enjoy this content and want to see more, please subscribe and turn on notifications to support the channel. John had a nagging feeling they shouldn't have gone this deep. The wreck of the Aurora, a rusted hulk of a freighter, loomed larger than expected, its skeletal form casting an unsettling shadow on the ocean floor. John, an experienced diver, usually reveled in exploring wrecks, but a strange silence hung heavy in the water here. His diving partner, Sarah, a recent convert to the world of technical diving, seemed unfazed. Her bright blue eyes sparkled with excitement as they descended past the mangled remains of the superstructure. John checked his gauges, 120 feet, approaching the limit of their planned recreational dive. He saw Sarah hesitate, her gaze lingering on a dark opening at the ship's belly. "Let's check it out," she said, her voice distorted by the regulator. John frowned. The plan was to explore the upper decks, not delve into the unknown depths of the cargo hold. He knew it was pushing his comfort zone, but Sarah's enthusiasm was infectious. With a deep breath, he followed her flickering light into the inky abyss. The hold was a desolate graveyard of crates and twisted metal. The only light came from their torches, carving fleeting circles of illumination in the oppressive darkness. The silence was broken only by the hiss of their regulators and the unsettling creaking of the rusted ship groaning under the immense pressure. Suddenly, Sarah's light flickered and died. John swore under his breath. They'd agreed on regular light checks. Panic clawed at him, but years of training kicked in. He aimed his own torch at Sarah, finding her silhouette frozen in place. "Light out?" he asked, his voice strained. A panicked nod was his answer. John felt a cold sweat prickle his skin. Standard protocol dictated an immediate ascent, but the darkness was all-encompassing. He knew losing their guideline, a thin white cord connecting them to the surface, was a critical mistake. Without it, finding their way back up in the labyrinthine wreck was impossible. He instructed Sarah to stay put while he searched for the line. It shouldn't be far. Minutes stretched into an eternity as John's frantic hands brushed against cold metal and decaying wood. The wreck seemed to mock his efforts, its silence amplifying the pounding of his heart. Just as despair threatened to consume him, his fingers brushed a familiar texture, the guideline. Relief washed over him like a tidal wave. He secured the line to his BCD and switched on his spare light, beckoning Sarah towards him. Her face, pale in the torchlight, showed a mix of relief and terror. They began their slow, agonizing ascent, the darkness pressing in from all sides. As they reached the sunlight, John broke the surface in a coughing fit. Sarah wasn't far behind, her face etched with fear. Back on the boat, the ordeal seemed surreal. Their dive computer recorded a depth of 135 feet, a clear violation of their plan. But the memory of the oppressive darkness, the chilling silence, and the lost guideline remained etched in their minds, a stark reminder of the ocean's unforgiving nature. John never returned to the Aurora. The wreck, a silent tomb beneath the waves, held a terrifying secret, a secret he knew he would never fully escape. Story number 2, The Lullaby of the Deep. The icy water of the Norwegian fjord bit at Sarah's exposed skin as she donned her dry suit. This solo dive was unlike any she'd attempted before. She was chasing a legend, the Singing Caves, a series of underwater caverns rumored to emit an otherworldly, hauntingly beautiful song. Drawn by the allure of the unknown, Sarah plunged into the frigid depths. Sunlight dwindled the deeper she went, replaced by the eerie glow of her dive lamp. The silence was all-consuming, broken only by the rhythmic hiss of her regulator. The rocky bottom stretched out before her, a desolate landscape punctuated by the occasional kelp forest. Following a hand-drawn map, Sarah navigated the labyrinthine underwater terrain, anticipation building with each passing minute. Finally, she spotted them, a series of dark openings in the cliff face. Her heart hammered in her chest as she approached the largest cave. Hesitantly, she flicked off her main light, plunging herself into near-total darkness. Only a faint bioluminescent glow emanated from the water around her. A wave of claustrophobia washed over her, but the promise of the song spurred her on. As she swam deeper into the cave, a change in the water pressure caused a ringing in her ears. Suddenly, a sound cut through the silence, a low, melancholic melody. It wasn't a song in the traditional sense, but a series of haunting whistles and clicks, echoing through the cavern like a sorrowful lullaby. Mesmerized, Sarah drifted deeper, drawn by the sound. The melody shifted, becoming more urgent, almost desperate. Then, a colossal shadow detached itself from the darkness. A creature unlike anything she'd ever seen, a giant squid with eyes the size of dinner plates and tentacles thicker than tree trunks, pulsed in the gloom. Terror choked the scream in Sarah's throat. The squid's immense form filled the cave, its single, massive eye fixated on her. The lullaby intensified, turning into a cacophony of clicks and whistles that seemed to vibrate in her bones. Instinct screamed at her to flee, but the sheer size of the creature rendered her immobile. Then, a change. The squid's pulsating body began to dim, its bioluminescence fading. The lullaby morphed into a series of mournful groans, echoing through the cavern. Suddenly, the immense creature collapsed in a heap of glistening tentacles on the ocean floor, its once vibrant eye clouding over. Panic jolted Sarah back to reality. The air supply gauge on her wrist blinked a warning red. She fought back tears as she turned and fled, the lullaby replaced by a chilling silence that spoke of death. The ascent was a blur, a desperate struggle against the suffocating darkness. Emerging back into the sunlight, Sarah clung to the side of the boat, her body shaking uncontrollably. She had escaped, but the experience left her forever marked. The song of the caves, once a siren call, now echoed in her nightmares, a haunting reminder of the monster that sang its final lullaby in the depths. The scientific community scoffed at her story. Giant squid, they said, were solitary creatures, unlikely to engage with humans. But Sarah knew the truth. Somewhere in the dark depths of the fjord, a monstrous leviathan lay silent, forever bound to the haunting melody that had led her to its demise. Story number 3, A Descent into Madness. David, a seasoned cave diver, prided himself on his meticulous planning. Every dive was meticulously charted, every tank meticulously filled. Yet, on this particular expedition, a sense of unease gnawed at him. The Cenote Xibalba, a vast underwater cave system in Mexico, was known for its treacherous currents and labyrinthine passages. Even with his years of experience, David couldn't shake the feeling they were pushing their limits. His partner, Lisa, a thrill-seeker newly certified for cave diving, exuded a nervous energy that didn't sit well with David. He reminded her of their agreed-upon limit, 800 meters from the entrance, and the importance of maintaining a constant visual contact. Lisa, eager to prove herself, brushed off his concerns. Descending into the crystal-clear water, the world transformed into an ethereal dreamscape. Sunlight filtered down through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating the intricate rock formations with an otherworldly glow. David, momentarily captivated, allowed Lisa to drift slightly ahead. A sharp tug on his guideline snapped him back to reality. Lisa, her face pale with panic, pointed frantically down a narrow passageway. It was barely wide enough for a single diver, and the darkness beyond was absolute. David's heart pounded. This wasn't on their map. Lisa, however, seemed possessed by a strange determination. Just a little further, she mouthed, disappearing into the inky blackness. David, torn between safety and the responsibility for his partner, reluctantly followed. The passage twisted and turned, the oppressive darkness amplifying every sound of their breathing. The silence was broken only by the rhythmic ping of their sonar, a faint reassurance in the suffocating gloom. The air gauge on David's wrist dipped below half, a stark reminder of their dwindling time. He signaled Lisa for ascent, but received no response. Panic clawed at him. He called out her name, his voice echoing eerily in the tunnel. Still no answer. He swam back the way they came, the passage seeming to stretch endlessly. The sonar, his only lifeline, began to sputter erratically, the familiar beeps replaced by a high-pitched whine. Just as despair threatened to overcome him, he saw a faint light ahead. He surged forward, hope blooming in his chest. Emerging into a cavern, he found Lisa, huddled beside a strange, bioluminescent fungus that cast an eerie glow on the walls. Relief flooded him, but it was short-lived. Lisa's eyes, dilated and unfocused, stared blankly into the distance. Her normally vibrant hair hung limp, plastered to her clammy forehead. He reached out to her, but she recoiled, muttering strange words in a language he didn't understand. Terror gripped him. The fungus, its unearthly glow intensifying, seemed to pulse with an unseen energy. Lisa's erratic muttering escalated into a full-blown shriek. David realized with bone-chilling certainty that whatever lurked in this cavern had taken hold of her mind. The sonar died with a final sputter. David knew they were trapped, not just by the cave system, but by the creeping madness emanating from the glowing fungus. He grabbed Lisa, her struggles weak and incoherent, and propelled them back towards the entrance, a desperate prayer forming on his lips. Their ascent was a frantic fight for survival. David, fueled by adrenaline and sheer terror, dragged Lisa through the darkness. His lungs burned, his head throbbed, but he dared not stop. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, They emerged from the cave into the blinding sunlight. Gasping for air, they collapsed onto the boat. Lisa, her eyes vacant, seemed oblivious to their escape. David cradled her, the horror of the cave clinging to him like a shroud. He had brought them back, but he knew a part of Lisa, perhaps a significant part, would forever remain lost in the depths of Xibalba, a victim of the cave's maddening whispers. If you enjoy this content and want to see more, please subscribe and turn on notifications to support the channel.